Okay, this is chapter 1. We're going to kind of blast through this. A lot of the stuff you know, so I will skip slides. There's 33 slides. It could normally take a long time, but I'm going to try to blast through this one. I can't say I'll do that with the rest, but this one we will. So, the learning objectives for this class, for this lecture, is how teachers are using technology in their work as educators, discussing computer, internet, social media, and other new technologies affecting students and families, and how new teachers and new students can use this thing we call 21st century technologies to learn 21st century skills. And we'll talk about the PLN, a professional learning network. So these are questions you want to think about through this. What are the roles of technology in the work of a 21st century teacher? What are the characteristics of the current Igeneration of technology using students? What are 21st century skills and 21st century technologies? And how can you start to build your PLN as a teacher? So teachers are expected to, among other things, convey essential academic material to students. So, math, science, whatever, it's a teacher's job to get that material across to the students and to try to reach all students, because most students have a unique background. It's not a cookie cutter situation anymore. So we use different types of strategies and philosophies that we'll talk about to try to reach all students as individually as we can, and then to manage a classroom dynamics. So we have content, methods, assessments, tests, and all that, interpersonal, extrapersonal dynamics, and routines that are all part of classroom management. So we'll talk about that too as we go on. So teachers often teach as they had been taught. So it was usually, in my day, whole group instruction and passive student listening, also known as drill and practice, and also known as drill and kill. So you get the information, you take an exam, you either pass or fail. There's no wiggle room. So, and it's passive, and if you look up that word, passive means non-confrontational. So, there's no controversy regarding this. It's either you get the information, you do with it what you will, and you either pass or fail. It's also called the behaviorist philosophy. So this fails to engage, up to half, probably more than half of the students, because students learn in different ways. So, and now students have technology-based learning everywhere else in life, not in academia, just in general. So, we have to take that into consideration when we're teaching in the 21st century. So, technology, any tool or device or material whose purpose is to solve human problems, wants, and needs. Computer, we have hardware and software. You guys know that probably pretty much. Tablets, yep. Smartphones, yep. Laptops, yep. So, information and communication technologies, it's all the stuff we use, for what's on a computer, what can be accessed, what can be connected. This whole idea of Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and Web 3.0. So the way I explain this is, most of you maybe had MySpace back in the day. That was like a bulletin board. You couldn't do a whole heck of a lot with it. So that was 1.0. 2.0 gave us Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Although you could post YouTube to MySpace in the 1.0, but it always took forever to do it, to watch it. So you can click on this link and watch this video. So 3.0 is, they're talking more about higher speeds, network systems, and a lot more voice touch command, wearable technologies, as you see here is an example of it, and then global sharing of information. So a lot of this stuff is going on now, but it's going to be more refined and enhanced as we move on with the 3.0. So these are all just different Web 2.0 apps and Web 3.0 apps. So some of these, I just downloaded Brave, and it didn't seem much different than Chrome or any other browser I have, but I wanted to check it out. I don't know about all these storage devices. I don't have Dropbox up here or cloud stuff, or they do have cloud and the other things here, but I don't know if these are going to be clouds or what's going on with them. So you can just check that out. Technology can transform learning with inside the classroom instructional tools, outside the classroom professional resources, and inside and outside the classroom learning resources. So we can do that in a myriad of ways that we'll talk about. Virtual libraries, digital textbooks. So you probably will get the copy of the digital textbook. There's all kinds of stuff, and if you don't have access to the FAMU library, you should get it. So if you have a FAMU ID or library codes on the bottom, you should go over there and check it out, because there's a lot of good resources there. We have different learning environments, so we can do global classrooms and build bigger and better learning communities within our classrooms. We also have a lot of assistive technologies out there for people with some type of disability or special need, and technology has done an absolutely fabulous job for the most part of helping a lot of students with special needs. And the cloud-based office, so there's all kinds of different clouds, but if you use FAMU email, you're using a cloud, because all that stuff's stored in a cloud situation. A cloud is simply a bunch of computers somewhere in the world that's storing your stuff. So anytime you use email, anytime you do anything that's going to be recorded or stored, it's going to some type of cloud. So clouds aren't necessarily just Dropbox and Google Cloud and all these other things. So students born after 2004 have always known a world powered by interactive technology. I think most of you were probably born right at the turn of the century, but you've known that too. So television, you've always had access to television, and you've always had access to probably cable. Back in the day, this old man only had 3 channels, okay? ABC, CBS, and NBC. So that's all we had when I grew up. You've always had cable. Probably always had access to some type of computer. Maybe you always had a smartphone and a tablet. I put this picture up of this little girl because, you go to a doctor's office, store, anywhere nowadays, the babies are using this stuff. It's the new pacifier. So, but we're also doing more unique stuff with not even whiteboards, interactive TVs and stuff now. So there's a lot of stuff going on that we need to think about. So education content grew. The proportion of educational content consumed falls as children grew. So, but education content has grown through technology. So we'll talk about that too. Nearly all teens watch television and use the computer. It's very true. So there's limits put forth by doctors and psychologists and stuff, or limits on non-school technology use. Very few meet that. We're constantly plugged in. We've always got something going Um, Mobile phone use, yes. The bottom line here is multitasking. So, we're doing five different things with technology at the same time most of the time. We're just always, we're watching TV, we're on a phone, we're on a laptop, we're doing tons of things at the same time, multitasking. We have different apps, so you're going to do an app project eventually, but we'll talk about apps for tablets and phones. So we have all these different kinds here. So technology begins with the youngest learners. As I said, babies know and they're becoming technologically literate, at a very, very young age. But there's a difference between being technologically literate and technologically academically literate. And we'll talk about that. Doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl. There is a digital divide that we'll talk about at another time, and participation gap. The have and the have-nots we'll talk about. It's actually a PowerPoint in the PowerPoint section you can look at. We'll talk about that more. And then the parental education levels factor in technology use. So parents or guardians, how plugged in they are can affect how plugged in they're going to let their children be, or the people that they're responsible for. So computer use differs by groups. Youngsters are users of multiple technologies. So the babies nowadays, they're getting all kinds of different stuff to play with, but generally that phone's king. Phone's number one. And of course, social media, it says immensely popular among elementary and secondary school students. It's immensely popular with everybody. So how we use that to our advantage is what we're going to talk about too in this class. Those 21st century skills, okay? The ability to think critically, make informed judgments, and solve complex problems. I subscribe to this thing called the 4 C's. What are skills? Communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. So read that and look at that. We'll talk about that later. So the ability to think creatively, these are right there are 3 of the 4 C's right here. Ability to communicate and collaborate with others, ability to use information in innovative ways, and then that responsibility for one's personal and civic life. So you put in the digital footprint, and it can follow you and it can hurt you. So you have to use ethical, moral practices when you are, online and plugged in. Even with Snapchat and so forth, Snapchat, supposedly the stuff goes away after 24 hours. Wrong. They haven't. It'll always be there. It's just not being shown. Supposedly WhatsApp does the same thing. It'll stop all those other things. I would not test that theory. Okay. 21st century based literacies. So it's, can we use technological tools proficiently? Can we solve problems in a collaborative way? Can we design and share information, evaluate from multiple sources, and handle that information ethically? Again, these are top topics now. So the TPAC, technical, pedagogical, content, knowledge. Okay, so what is pedagogy? What does that mean? Okay, I want you to look that up. And while you're looking that up, exciting learning based on 3 forms of knowledge: the content knowledge, the pedagogical knowledge, and probably the most exciting is going to be the technological knowledge. So we're trying to use pedagogy It is the art of teaching children, is what pedagogy means. So we're using all this technology to try to excite the learners, and we'll talk about how we can do that, other tools we can use throughout this class. Technology evolves and changes all the time. So stuff you used last year, you may not use this year. So, you know, we've moved from presentation tools to interactive technologies. So, you know, tablets and laptops and stuff like that have always been around, but we're using them, haven't always been around, but they've been around quite a while. But we're using them in different ways now. We'll talk about those. The PLN, the professional networking. So this is just really something that teachers can do to help each other. And anytime, anywhere source for ideas of information that supports teaching work, demonstrating instructional competency with the latest tools. So we're going to look at a professional learning network called CPALMS in a different session that's through the state of Florida that kind of encompasses this spirit of the professional learning network. It is for teachers and students, teacher education students that are going to be teaching in the state of Florida. Has a lot of resources and stuff, so we'll look at that at a later time. Plus, it's going to be part of a extra credit opportunity. These push-pull stuff, push the information you provide on the web and pull the information you access. So this is the push-pull process. That's in your book. So, you know, teacher-created websites and wikis, online searches, it's push-pull. So check that out. Your digital identity addresses 3 important goals. You actually create a multimedia resume. So, you know, again, know what you're doing and be careful with what you're doing. Learning resources and teacher tools and technology models for students. So, you know, we always talk in education about modeling behavior. So what you're doing in your world of social media and connectivity, you know, could possibly be, you know, shown to students at some point. So you want to just be careful with all that stuff. How do you create highly interactive, highly inquiry-based learning? Well, there's a lot of ways, and you know, this is not the one and only answer. There's a lot of different ways. So we want to put the 4 C's in there: communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and all that stuff. So organize that activities in which students create, shape, and evaluate information and experiences, and hopefully on a individual level. We're trying more and more to bring out the individuality of students. So we do that through a philosophy called constructivism, which we'll talk about later. So again, there's 2 of the 4 C's in there: prepare, deliver, and access lessons while students think critically and create creatively about the learning they do and the technologies they use. That is it. So you need the book. The quiz will not cover all this stuff on the quiz will have stuff on here that's not on this PowerPoint. So make sure you get the quiz, or get the PowerPoint. I'm sorry. Thank you.